Hello again. You are listening to Is This Strange? Stories of the Unusual by KL and Roxy. So, in the last podcast, I was telling you about some of the things that started happening immediately to me inside this cool old house in Pennsylvania. And like I've said before, I would be happy to actually go back there and buy it again. And it was 11 acres, not 6.
Oh, okay.
You told me it was 6. It was actually 11.
It was really neat because it owned all the way into the cool ass creek across the way too.
I know, and we had the spring that made a creek on the other side that bordered it.
Went under the road, yeah.
So
not to mention it was like literally 2 minutes from your rail trail that you loved.
Yeah.
The only weird part that it had though is the other building. There was like an outbuilding right at the road that was obviously a 2-horse stall, like for buggies.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
It was yeah.
We wanted to do a lot of rehabbing on that if we had kept it. But it was really old. It was really cool. So
yeah, oh my gosh, so many like not nails that you find now. Yeah. I mean, these were big, obviously like hand forged.
Yeah, it was really cool. And the river sounds were just really neat. You know, you were on the hill.
The weird thing was I didn't actually go into that building much.
No, that one was not that wasn't.
It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't a building I like to go to. Mm-hmm. And I didn't ever imagine putting horses in it.
But it had beautiful woods in the back. Very, not dense woods, just really huge, big trees. And there was black walnuts and there was big ass oaks and all leaves underneath. And there was what I'm trying to find out is there was nobody behind us. You could walk for quite a distance, and then when you did finally break out of the woods, it was like farmland, far away from any other people. So this one, I think I know what story you want me to tell. Yeah, so it would take a little bit.
This story, okay. So it was only a couple of minutes on your bike, on my bike at least, to get to the rail trail. The rail trail had been an old railroad. Now, they decided that, hey, let's get the train up and running again. They rehabbed it. Oh my God, it was gorgeous. Beautiful. I absolutely loved riding beside this train. And the conductors start to, they knew me after a while. They would see me all the time riding. So we would all wave and they'd toot their little horn at me and stuff. Oh my gosh.
So it's not a commercial train. It's for tourism. And for a while, was it like about a year it took them to pull all the old Civil War age?
I know, and they said I could have all the stakes, and I brought them home with me.
Yeah.
Oh God, that added like an extra 80 pounds to my bike one day.
So we have some old railroad spikes and stuff from this.
Yeah, and they gave them to me because they were putting new ones down, so they were just laying them out there and said, yeah, you can just take them.
I think we have like 30 or 40 of them.
I don't know, they were heavy.
They were. So it took a while. So this all was done rehabbed, and then they brought in the old steam train, which was
they
beautiful,
also rehabbed.
Brass and black and red, and it's absolutely the most gorgeous thing ever.
Oh my gosh!
But it seemed to increase the activity because you could hear the horn and the toot and the and the smoke coming up.
Yeah.
And it's for some reason when they brought this train back to life.
They brought some of the ghosts with them.
It seems like because like you said, we were right at the Mason-Dixon line.
But I have to explain the actual story that happened.
Okay.
Now, this one involved Roxy. She was sitting here. She was it was one of her nights. She was at home. Off. And we didn't have to run back to North Carolina right away. Mm-hmm. So
because I worked night shift, we were usually up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning before I could finally crawl back, which I could finally go to sleep.
Which I have to say, I don't know if that's changed as much. We still seem to be.
Yeah.
As, you get your most work and writing done at night when it's creative time. Yeah, never mind.
So I'll come back to that word. It was well after midnight, this episode.
Yeah, and so we're just sitting there, we're zoning, watching TV, typing on the computer. Dogs are laying at the feet. That's when I still had Angel and Sky. And dogs are laying at our feet. Everything is just nice, calm. And all of a sudden, on the back door, like something was hitting the window. We just heard this. It was like...
It wasn't I don't know if it was the window, but it actually...
I don't know, but it was... I'm going to hold my mic to do this, so excuse the loud noise. It was like...
really loud.
And it was just 3 knocks.
It was the po-ho knock. It was.
So it was just 3 loud bangs on the
Uh-huh.
back. I mean, it actually rattled the door.
Door.
And the dogs jumped up. So they heard this too. This wasn't just like,
Yeah. I jumped. My heart went crazy. I jumped up. You jumped up. We thought someone was on the back.
So she
area.
went to the back because it was a back door that had a giant glass window in it. So she went and she's like peeking out the curtain. Of course, I just run out the front. I'm like, fuck this. There will be no one on our property.
But you have to realize what the design. First, this was a very isolated house on a very small single lane little road. And the driveway was super steep, which was super fun when it was snowing and stuff.
Yeah.
But super steep driveway. And then you turned and parked around to the back of the house, which all those 11 acres was behind you, heavily treed, and also
except
uphill.
For like 2 acres right across the road that was on the river.
That's true.
But still.
So it would not have been easy for someone to get back there, and our vehicles were parked back there.
And it also, but as quickly as we got there to each door, you couldn't see. So what we found out later, and people always say, well, don't open the door if someone knocks like that, if it's a spirit knock, because you're letting them in. Well, too late. We had actually already opened the doors. We ran out that house to check. So what we found out later is because it was on the railroad, you would get
the Underground Railroad, not the railroad, the Underground Railroad.
But it also had to do with when they had, I don't want to call them hobos, but that's what everybody called them. Okay. The people that would ride the trains, and they would go from one stop to the other. And what they would do is get off of the trains, go to the houses, bang on the houses, and people would leave out like bread, milk, things like that for them to eat. And then they would continue on their way. We also found out, so we don't know exactly what happened, which part of the history did this that night, because it only happened once. What we also found out is they would give 3 knocks if it had to do, like that. 3 knocks if it had to do with the Underground Railroad and they were passing people through. 3 knocks, and then they would drop them off and continue on their way so they wouldn't get caught. That way they could just keep moving really quick. Don't know if it had to do with spirit train rider that was jumping off and asking for food still, or if it had to do with the Underground Railroad and they were dropping off slaves, trying to get them to freedom,
right,
and keep moving them. I don't know. All I know is the minute that train started running, this happened. It was like it had its inaugural weekend run, and then the next right after that, this happened. So don't know Underground Railroad and again, this is also the train that they took Lincoln on after he was shot, and they took him and, took his body all over the place.
You have to also realize in the basement, there was the front basement that opened out to the hillside, but there was also a wall.
There had been something else.
It had been enclosed, and and obviously with the retrofitting and putting in a gas, not a heater, a furnace, they had opened that wall up and put a doorway and everything in, because the water pump and the heater and stuff were in this back room. But it was really obvious that this had been
something else,
walled in and set up so that you wouldn't know that there was a hidden room in there. And I really feel, because that one section was really freaky looking. That was the only weird area that had weird energy, like something was hiding in there and scared. And it was like, I never wanted to go flash my light in there. Well, that's because
you always kept thinking that there was a well buried that they had just but there cemented over.
We're not even sure if there wasn't another room under it, because I felt like
there was a cavern under us.
But since we were just renting,
really felt like it.
Since we were just renting, there was no way to open that up, but I felt like there was a space underneath. I could feel it underneath the flooring.
Yes.
And if we had ever bought it, I would have totally been digging into that to see what we could find. But it was really weird. It was a really strange sensation.
It was, yeah. And it's not where the cesspool was, because that was actually on the other side of the house. So
I think there's a hidden compartment in there still somewhere.
I don't know.
It's really cool.
If we ever win the lottery and you want to buy the house, we could.
We might do that. You never know.
thank you for joining us for this episode, and come back on the next one and you will find out more of what happened in this house, because it was never not active. But thank you for joining us, and we will talk to y'all later.
Bye.